Alright, this is the setup for a game of Eminent Domain. Just quickly, this is like the board part of it, and this is where the cards go that you'll be adding to your deck. I guess technically you don't really need this. You could just place these cards in piles on the table. But if you notice that underneath the cards they actually have a picture of the card and everything that the action is. And once the cards are depleted, these actions are still available to you in a way. So having them there is kind of nice. Up here, these are the technologies that you can research. I'll explain that, of course. These are the victory point chits. One of the conditions for the game ending, one way the game can end is if a certain number of these decks are depleted, depending on the number of players you have, or having earned all of these little victory point chits. And you'll notice that these that have the blue background, you don't collect these until somebody has collected the last one of these. And because of the fact that this isn't a game where if you were like the first player of the game and you collected the last one of these, the game doesn't end. Each person gets to have another turn, so everybody has an equal number of turns. These are resource discs. There are a limited number of these, and if you create and produce those, like you have a planet that say produces the green, but there's no green discs available, you just can't produce those. And finally over here, you have these little cool models of the rocket ships. These denote your military strength, and the size of them doesn't matter. You'll notice that there's this big one and those, and you can see this is kind of a smaller one too. But each one of those just counts as one. I guess technically you could have them count as different numbers if you wanted to, but it really doesn't matter. So, how do you play the game? Alright, first thing you do is, depending on the number of players, you have these cool little player handy turn phase cards. You hand one of these out to each person. You're saying, well, if I know how to play the game, I don't really need this. Oh, but see in the back, one of them says start player on it. So, shuffle these up, give each person one, everybody turns it over. You find out who goes first. Kind of neat. I guess technically you could play rock, paper, scissors, or roll a die, or use a spinner, or something like that, but I always kind of like it when the game that doesn't have a die, or doesn't have a way to pick the first player. You know, how many games do you play? It's like, oh, the last person who had a cold, and like in Pandemic or whatever, gets to go first, or the last person who traveled abroad gets to go first, or something like that. I kind of like the little random thing, and that they included is really cool. So, after you do that, each person, these are the starting planets. Each person will get one of these randomly. They are different, they aren't the same. So like, I mean, this is a fertile planet that produces the green, or the food down here. And you can see up here on the planets, and just so you can see that that's worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. So there's a metal planet, and and then here's a different planet there. So you can see that they aren't all the exact same type of planet, so it is kind of random. And I'll explain planets and surveying them and whatever, but each person gets one of these, and you have it face down in front of you when you start the game, because you haven't colonized it yet. And I should point out, while I have it here, I guess I should, you can see that the type of planet is listed down here. Like, this is an advanced planet. You can see it's got the rings around it. And you can see that there's this little fighter ship here. It has a 2 by it. And you can see there's a little orange disc there, and that's a colony, and that's got a 2 by it as well. And what this tells you is that in order to colonize this planet, you need to either at least have 2 warships, so you can take it over by force, or you need to have 2 colonies on the planet before you can take it over. That's if you're going to do it peacefully. Now, other planets aren't always going to have the same number. There's going to be different planets will have different numbers, and depending on what planets you get, you have to change up your strategy, perhaps. But anyway, each person gets one of these, put them face down in front of them, and then they get their cards. You create a deck. This is much like in other deck building games where you create a deck. You get one of these politics cards, one of these warfare cards, and then 2 each of the rest. 2 survey, 2 colonize, to produce/trade. I should note that, like, whereas the other cards have one ability on them, the produce trade, actually you get to pick when you use it. You get to do, you want to produce items or trade things. So you get 2 of those, and you get 2 research cards. So you shuffle these up, just like most games that involve a deck building strategy. You take a certain number off the top. In this game it's 5. Put the rest aside, and you have your 5 starting cards for the game. Now in this case I have a warfare, survey, a produce, a politics, and a colonize. What I'm going to do now, instead of actually like playing out a turn, is I'm going to show you what each and every one of these cards can do, and then I'm going to show you exactly the actions that you can take with them and what you do on your turn. Now then, on your turn, you get to either, you have the option of using a card as an action. You don't have to do that, but you have the option of doing so. And then, after that, you take a look at the cards that are available on the display that are still there. You choose one, you put it in front of you. So basically you're in, like other deck building games where you have to actually like purchase a card to put in your deck. In this case you're just choosing one. You take that card, you put it in front of you, and then if you can, or if you want to, you look in your own deck and you look for other cards of the same symbol, and you play that down to expand on the power of that ability for that particular turn. Then each person in turn around the table gets an option of following your lead, basically. So if you choose survey and somebody across the table from you also wants to survey, they can put their green survey cards down and take the same action. But being the leader does give you a bonus, and I'm going to go through all those things right now. All right, the first thing I'm going to show you, just because each person gets one of these politics cards, and you'll notice that there are only 4 politics cards in the game. The politics card is kind of like the catch-all card that will help you get started at the beginning of the game. You'll notice that it has no lead or follow on it, it only has an action. And the action on it is you remove the card from the game, in other words you take it and you trash it out of your deck, and you get to take any one roll card that's available and put it in your hand. So what that does is that if it gets to your turn, remember you get to take an action if you want. If the action that you want to take to start off or whatever, like say you really want to survey but you didn't get a survey card, you can take a survey card, you can put it in your hand, you get rid of that card, and now you have that survey card in your hand. So that's the politics card. You only get one of them. You'll probably use it up pretty quickly and it'll be gone. But it's actually pretty ingenious that they have this, just basically to make sure that nobody gets boned right away in the very first few turns of the game and is not able to take the action that is most beneficial, and so nobody starts off, automatically worse than anybody else just because of the luck of the draw. So now these are the different things that you can do. A survey card, if you notice, the action allows you to draw 2 cards, just like other deck builders. It allows you to draw 2 more cards out of your deck, and you place those in your hand. And then after the when you use this as a roll, you get to look at a number of planet cards, depending on how many of the survey cards or how many of the different symbols of this little green guy up here. You get to play those out -1 from that total, and that's the number of these planet cards that you can look at. If you are the leader, you get to look at 1 additional card. Now what that means is, as the leader, if you just play one of these cards, you're going to be able to look at 1, because 1 minus 1, 0, add 1 because you're the leader, you get to look at 1 card. But obviously if you have 2 or 3 of these cards, you're going to get to look at several different planet cards. Now the planet deck is shuffled at the beginning of the game and is just placed face down. Everybody can see the back of the deck. You can see, oh okay, it's a fertile planet, that's the one that's on top. You can see that, in this case it takes 6 ships to take it by force and 3 colonies to take it. But you don't know what's below it. So if you say you've got to draw 3, you take the 3 cards off the top, you get to look at them and see what they are. And so like, and see what they give you. And different cards will do different things. Like you notice these cards actually, if you have them, they're considered having an extra colony So next time you do a colony action, you get to actually use these plants and use that bonus when you use the colony roll or follow with the colony roll. And also, cards will have what they produce. So you can see that this one produces green food, and this one produces blue water. Now this card is actually interesting because you look and it's just like, oh, well, it doesn't do anything. But if you notice in the top right, it's a prestige planet. It earns you 6 victory points if you manage to colonize it. Now, so you look through these particular things. Oh, and I should notice that I didn't see that. This one actually can produce 2. And so you look through and you decide which planet you want to take. So let's say you like that one because it produces 2. And then you place this card face down in front of you. And so then you have that one down in front of you, and until you can actually take it over by force, or until you can colonize it, you don't get to flip it over, and it doesn't become part of your domain, your eminent domain, if you will. That's how the survey card works.